Hey everybody, Mary Z back once again with VoiceHacks. So today I have a really cool reaction video for you. We're going to look at the female vocalist for a band from France called Igorrr. Igorrr is spelled with not one, not two, but three R's. And it is super interesting. It's like avant-garde metal, but with a guy who's DJing. So there's a guy who creates all of the tracks, and he's the main composer for the band. He's a guy named Gautier Serre. I'm really sorry to my French-speaking audience because I suck at the uvular R. Serre. I suck at it. So I'm going to say everything Americanized today, and I'm really, really apologetic for it because I know that it's not exactly the correct pronunciation. So Gautier is the main composer in this group, and he plays like an entire DJ rig at the show. And it seems pretty fascinating because there's distorted guitar in some of the tracks. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in the tracks that could represent things that a band could do. But what's really neat is they're able to take these compositions and do really avant-garde things with them, including weird time changes and time shifts and rhythmic shifts, interesting, complicated drum parts that maybe aren't realistic for humans to play. So there's a lot going on here. They typically have two different vocalists, but we're going to take a look at a video of the female vocalist, Laure Le Prunenec. And again, I apologize for the American R's. I know, I'm sorry. It's hard to say the uvular R if you didn't grow up with it. She's amazing. She's a crazy diverse vocalist. So before I talk about anything that's going on, let's actually take a look and let's hear how she sounds. This is live footage. Once again, I chose live footage because I want you to hear all of the crazy variety of things she's actually doing, and that it's not just studio magic, that it's actually from her live performance. So let's check it out here. All right, that was a crazy wild ride. So let's stop there for a second. That was amazing. So what are we hearing, first of all? Just some absolutely crazy stuff. So first thing I want to point out is this is just not random Yoko Ono meaningless vocalizing. Sorry, I'm not a super huge fan of Yoko Ono's artistic way of doing things because I don't think it's as good as something like this. So this is very avant-garde. I guess we could call it progressive in its own way, but it's almost beyond progressive. It's like art music. But we have to make a note that there is some definitive tonal centers. She's rehearsed with this backing track. These vocals are composed to the backing track. Now, the really interesting thing is, when I was researching her vocals and researching her and reading some interviews, she makes up words and makes up a language for this. This isn't in English. It's not in any particular language. And in the interviews, she was saying she kind of lets the emotions dictate the parts and sort of the language that she makes up as she goes along. So it's really fascinating. Sigur Rós is another band that sort of made up their own language as well. The thing that we notice vocally is that there are pitches that go with the background rhythm and the music, that it matches the tonality of the music behind her. So it's not just random happenstance. This is a pre-rehearsed thing. The other thing that's really fascinating is the switching of the styles. So we have here basically three main styles: classical singing, belting, or shouting, we could kind of think of it, and raspy shouting with distortion. And she goes back and forth seamlessly between all of them. And so to do this, you've got to really, really know the sounds separately in your mind. When I was researching her background, I actually couldn't find out if she had a lot of previous training or anything. A lot of the interviews that I read just kind of indicated that she let her emotions dictate her vocals, and I'm not sure if she has any training. But in either case, she's making all of these sounds correctly. Her distortion is placed correctly, her belting is placed correctly, and her classical singing is placed correctly. This is why this person is not injuring themselves while they're doing this. Also, they're supported well with air. And so when we hear the distortion and she's going back between the styles, we hear the distortion on top of the voice, and it's only a little mild amount. She's really good at using the brassy edge of the belt sound, coming down into belting and then transitioning seamlessly back into classical singing. So in order to do that, you've got to be extremely well rehearsed, and you really need to know where you're going. So yes, this seems very, very different and very out there, but there's a very specific order to everything that's happening so that she can replicate it. She knows exactly where she's going and when, and whether that's her emotions guiding her or not, it has a certain level of accuracy to it. So my recommendation, if you want to start doing crazy stuff like this, is to learn all the styles and separately, and then try to combine them. So classical singing separately, raspy singing and belting separately, all separately. So we hear a lot of forward placement, or what we call epiglottal twang in this. Like a lot of shouting in that voice, and that would be our belt voice essentially. So that's when it gets really, really brassy and tinny and like a talking voice or a shouting. That's kind of our epiglottis folding and us becoming in the brassy tone. And then when she floats up and it becomes more operatic, that is our epiglottis opening up, and we hear a lot of vibrato. You notice that in the belting tone, she's using more straight tone and saving the vibrato for the upper, the higher, more operatic notes when she goes there. This is super fascinating. I'm curious to know what you think. What kind of metal would you call this? Is this a new subgenre? Did somebody invent it? There is a male vocalist in this band, but there's so much going on with this female vocalist, and they don't always perform at the same time, so I kind of wanted to take a look at the female vocalist. This was sort of a solo song for her. She has several other projects, so if you want to check out Laure Le Prunenec, and I hope that you've enjoyed this analysis. There isn't any full fry screaming or anything like that in this song, so everything she's doing has some kind of voice in it, just to kind of clear that up as well. I hope you enjoy it. I really like this band. I absolutely love what they do. I enjoy listening to it. It is out there, but like I said, it's got some really significant melodic structure to it that they kind of stick with as they're going through it. You can hear like there's themes and things repeating. So I hope that you've discovered something new and crazy, and kudos to the vocalist for doing such an amazing job on all these different styles. This really takes a lot of technical command, guys, and I would not just try this out of nowhere. I would start dabbling in a variety of styles and then slowly attempt to put them together. Don't just do stuff like this and shout out of nowhere. You could definitely hurt yourself if you don't know what you're doing. You've got to have a lot of practice and a really, really solid idea of how each of these sounds are performed safely in order to combine them. There is some stuff that you need to stick with to make your composition enjoyable, even if it is way out there like this. And in this case, the pitch is one where the melody is matching some of the tonality of the backing track, even though they are kind of doing completely different rhythms and things. So don't forget that when you do weird artsy stuff like this, it's not just about doing random stuff for the sake of doing random stuff. It needs to go together in some way. The pitch needs to be relevant to the rest of the composition in some way. Thanks very much, everybody, and I hope that you've enjoyed this reaction. Let me know what you want to see next. Don't forget to hit that subscribe. Thank you guys so much for all of your comments and suggestions. And as always, if you need lessons on this stuff, get started with my playlists right here on YouTube. And then if that's not enough for you, email me at voicehacks@gmail.com for rates and scheduling. I teach students on Skype all over the world every single week. So thanks very much, everybody, and I hope that you have a great week. Bye.